Literally Books, the podcast. My name is Magda.
And I'm Lindsay.
And today we're going to be discussing part 3 of Oathbound, Impervious.
This is my favorite section, I think.
I think so too. I think for
so
me,
excited.
this is my favorite section as well. I love this section so much. This is what finally, I was like, I could not put the book down. I think from the prologue to part 2, I was just like, I don't know what's happening. Like, it's just a lot of world building. Then this is where everything kicks up and I just love it.
It's a perfect premise. Okay, let's get into it.
All right. 4 months after Bree's initial disappearance, the characters' POVs converge at Mikhail's collector's gala at his Penumbra estate. Bree learns the mysterious stranger who attacks her while attempting to steal back Erebus' crown is in fact Nick, whom she does not initially recognize. After scuffling, the pair are nearly caught by Mikhail's warlock goons.
Bree and Nick's efforts are one of many simultaneous failed theft attempts, which results in the auction being pushed back a few days and requires the attendees, including Mariah, Zoe, Bree, Nick, and Ava, to stay at the manor through a weekend.
Guests eagerly await the auction throughout the weekend, but Bree and the gang are forced to fight off foes at every turn, including various brushes with warlocks. However, they use secret tunnels in the castle to meet in an abandoned library and strategize.
In order to suss out the thieves, Mikhail insists on doing public interrogation, in which he asks 2 direct questions about the theft and then requires that the people being interrogated give up 3 pieces of damning information in order to earn his trust. If a participant lies, they are swiftly killed.
During the final night of auction weekend, Nick, who is impersonating a wealthy hedge fund guy, agrees to be interrogated by Mikhail on behalf of himself and Bree in order to continue participation in the collector's gala, which requires him to answer 10 questions without lying, which Nick carefully skirts while revealing his real feelings for Bree.
We finally make it to the auction where Ava bids on Erebus' crown in order to return it to the Morganes. The final item auction is jars of root magic representing the sale of root crafter girls who are being trafficked, one of whom is the girl Bree met at the Rapscallion and was unable to save with Zoe.
Violence erupts and surprise, Erebus was there impersonating a warlock goon from Mikhail's bunch. He imprisons the group in the basement at the Penumbra.
I mean, I feel like there's still 25 more bullet points I could have put in there. So much happens.
This is a really intense part, but I loved it.
And just in case, so we left off in part 2 where Bree is at Penumbra. She is trying to break in and someone attacks her. So in case you didn't remember that from part 2, that's where we leave off in part 2, but we don't know who it is.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of really enjoyed the reunion in a way. I know that Bree doesn't really remember him that much, but like, again, it goes back to like remembering the feelings that she felt, and like she goes back like, why do I feel so like safe with this person? Like I feel like this is like my comfort home, and like this is home. And I just thought that it was really lovely that even though she doesn't know who he is, like she immediately has like this conflicting thing of like trust in him in a way. Like she just kind of knew that he was like person that was there for her to kind of protect her. I don't know. It was just, I just thought that was really sweet.
And I think it's a good initial meeting because Nick gets to see how powerful Bree is, and they get to sort of meet on equal footing. Like she's not his page anymore. She is his, his like primary foe, right? Like they are. And then he also learns and a really, like, my big fear was like, is it going to be like a whole annoying thing of him like uncovering that she doesn't remember him or like know exactly who he is? And they get through that really quickly. And I'm just so grateful. And he's like, okay, well, fuck, we got to figure out how to fix that. But now we're buds again.
I love that. And I think that was one of the things that Erebus had pretty much threatened Bree with in one of her previous parts, which we didn't really talk about. But he pretty much made her feel guilty about forgetting them because they're like, how do you think your friends are going to react when you don't remember them? Like he was putting this like good old guilt on him. Like, man, maybe he was raised by Catholic parents because like he was like working that whole guilt into her so bad that she was feeling really anxious when she like met him because he's like, what is he gonna think when I tell him that I don't remember him? And he was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess it's not a mesmerist magic. We'll figure it out. It's cool. And I thought that was so cool. And that was pretty much the same reaction that we get from everybody else. Like, they're just like, okay, we'll figure it out. Don't worry. Well, we'll talk about that later. But it was just, I don't know. I thought it was really nice.
I like it too. I think one of the things that Tracy does really well is that she builds in this like acceptance among the group of meeting people where they are over and over again. Like when Nick tells William that he's been abused, Nick just says, that sucks. I'm here for you. I'll do it. Like I will be here to support you. When Zoe tells Bree about her identity. Like Bree's like, cool, moving on. Like there is just an implicit like acceptance of who people are that like I am so grateful we don't have to trot through in the book, because it's like there's so much else going on here. Like, and these people are supposed to be friends. Like, let's just cool.
Yeah.
What do we got to do? I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was so lovely. I also kind of love that we kind of see a little bit of a trope in here, which is like Bree and Nick get thrown into the one bed type of scenario. So because they do get kind of caught by somebody, Nick has to kind of quickly think of like, okay, how are we gonna do this? So he introduces her as his fiance, because he had 2 tickets and Ava was supposed to be that part. So he's just like, oh yeah, this is Iris, my fiance. So now they kind of have to stay together because they're gonna have to be there for 3 days. And he just kind of forces this proximity that it kind of helps for us to learn more about what Nick is going through and how Bree takes on a lot of that information. So it's kind of important because we learn a lot of the secrecy that Nick has been going, like his whole plan pretty much. We kind of start learning a little bit about it here. We learned that he had figured out how the Morganes have been kept alive, which is they're using the Hunter's crown or the Shadow King's crown to kind of be able to, when you have the crown and then you touch a Morgan, the power, you're able to kind of grab the power of the Morgan and be able to keep it alive. And that's how they've been passing on the power generation by generation. And Nick did this. So he's also now has a little piece of the crown, because his whole plan is potentially to relieve Bree of the King Arthur in her. It's like, maybe I can just grab the spirit and put it in me, and he'll just keep Lancelot and King Arthur. Even though he most likely will die, it'll give Bree a way out if she doesn't want to deal with this. So that was one of the things.
Yeah, I mean, we learned so much more about the magic. We learned that we learned about the Morganes. But on the lighter side of life, like you started to mention this, I love that she employs so many like traditional romance tropes here, because everyone is coming in with a secret identity, essentially. Like everyone that's going there is getting an invite under the guise of being someone else. So Nick's supposed to be this hedge fund guy. Bree's supposed to be Iris's fiance. Originally it's supposed to be Zoe and Bree are these socialite sisters. Mariah is supposed to be this other person, but she somehow ends up with Zoe as part of the sisters because Ava can't be Zoe's sister, and then Ava just ends up by herself. Like that whole like switcheroo, mistaken identity, forced proximity of like Zoe and Mariah become friends because they are forced to pretend to be sisters. Nick and Bree have to be in the same room together, which only has one bed. Like we're getting all this heavy information about like your point about like the lineage and stuff in the context of sort of this like
funny,
like silly, funny switcheroo. And it's why, again, like Tracy just is awesome at like building in so many tones simultaneously that you're like, are they gonna kiss? Are they gonna like, what's happening? And then like sneaking through the tunnels and meeting in a library. Like it's fun.
And you know, one of my most lighthearted things that I loved was like Nick and Bree. Like every time Nick would touch Bree, she was like, I feel like this shock of energy because she just feels so nervous but like excited to be there. But like you can kind of tell that she doesn't feel used to the touch. And one of the things I love is like Nick tells Bree, like, we're gonna have to practice touching because like you freak out every time like we touch each other, so we have to like learn how to do it. I just thought it was like a really nice intimate moment where they're just kind of sitting there on bed, just holding hands, touching their knee. Like I don't know, is the juxtaposition of like something exciting but also something like an old couple would do, which is just sitting there holding hands. And I just thought that was really sweet.
Yeah, them building up it built up the tension for sure. We have so much sexual tension in this section, and that was a good time. And then so much like exterior dramatic tension too, leading up to these like the lead up to the auction is so fun, where you're like every night you're watching Mikhail interrogate these people, and they're all garbage rich people who basically have like killed their husbands or like stolen money from people, and that trade of information is like ultimately how they earn their admittance and like, you know, get rid of his suspicion. It's fun question mark, but also
it's like what do you call like the new genre, which is like funny horror?
Yeah,
which is like a dark comedy type of thing that you're kind of seeing unfold as we're going through this. We also kind of learn quite a bit of Mikhail. Mikhail is also another who used to be a member of the
Shadow Court. We're gonna say it right. We're gonna do it right.
I was just like, please, Lindsay, jump in because I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say Night Court. But yeah, he used to be a member of the Shadow Court, and the way that he feeds on is on like this like energy of people trying to resist them. And like when people are lying to him, like he feeds on that and kind of
And just human emotion, far more than any other kind of magic. Yeah.
Exactly. So he's so powerful because of that. So in a way, these communions, which is what we call these interrogations, he's actually feeding himself and becoming more powerful because people don't want to divulge these secrets. But the more that they fight it, like the shame or the guilt or whatever, he feeds on all of that. And I think for one of them, he actually ends up killing them. And it also talks about the monstrosity of human beings because people are just there enjoying the killing of somebody on a stage. And they're like, oh, okay. And that's it.
Yeah, because at one point, I'm so glad you brought this up because Bree keeps thinking like, is he mesmerizing these people? And that's why they're enjoying it. And we learn that like he doesn't really have the power of mesmer anymore because he's traded some of his other powers in order to feed in this way off of people. And so to your point about like monstrosity of humans, like Tracy keeps interweaving these themes of like what is evil, because it's not just demonic. It's not just demonic beings. It's not just the order. It's because Cell is not evil, and Bree says that over and over again. Like Zoe is not evil, and these are demons. Valak is not evil. They're doing all these wonderful things, and what we see in this section is like this pursuit of power, this pursuit of owning something and being the owner of something that doesn't belong to you. That power dynamic is what makes people evil, and you see it across all. You see it in the order, you see it in the regions, you see it in Mikhail, you see it in humanity here. It's crazy.
In Ava.
In Ava, yeah, true, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, which we kind of learned that Ava is the one that keeps sending like I don't know, were they warlocks?
Yeah, they're warlocks.
They're warlocks to try to kill Nick and Bree all the time. Like she just kind of kept sabotaging them over and over again. Because at the end of the day, she's still a Morgan. Like her whole intent is to kill Bree. Like she wants to end their round table. She wants to do that. So it just, I just love the complexity that Tracy brings into every single one of these characters, because not everything is black and white. And we as readers have to kind of accept that and take us, just kind of go along for the ride and make up our own mind as to who is truly the evil in all of this, and we don't know that yet.
Exactly right. Yeah. Okay. So a moment that I really love that I definitely want to talk about is this moment where Nick, as this fake hedge fund guy, is basically volunteers himself to be interviewed by Mikhail so that Bree doesn't have to answer any questions, because she's going to have a really hard time answering them honestly and not divulging who she is and why she's there. And he does this by basically giving very true responses about his feelings for Bree and giving Bree an insight into his relationship with her before she forgot who he is. So he says, like, we find out in this moment basically that he knows that she and Cell had a relationship together while he was gone. And he was like, it was really hard for me, but, and like, of course the crowd is like, oh my God, she cheated on him with his best friend. It's so tough. And there's this moment where Mikhail asks him, how does he feel about it? And he said, our lives are hard, short. They both deserve happiness where they find it. And then he also says, but if they do find it, I don't know how I'm going to feel. And that moment broke my heart. It broke me completely.
It was such a raw, honest moment, because I think the way that Nick thinks about this is that he feels that he's going to die at the end of this. Mm-hmm. He feels like, I'm not going to be around forever. And if that's who Bree's gonna find happiness, I'm happy. I'm happy with that, because I don't know how long we're gonna be here for. And it shows the level of maturity that I don't think me as a mid 30 something year old even can grasp. Like, it was just so real. But I think it's just being so close to death and choosing that I know I'm gonna be dying. So like, I want her to be happy, and I don't want her to have to like just be alone. Like, if that's who she finds happiness with, it is what it is.
I know. I think it's the moment. You've been a Nick fan from the very beginning. I was waiting for him to screw up, basically. But I think the moment at the beginning where he calls out the Regents for being racist and misogynistic and terrible, and really stands up for Bree even in her absence, and then this moment where he's like, it doesn't really matter how I feel. Like, these are two people that I love. And he keeps saying that. It's not just Bree either. He feels this same love for Cell, where he's like, I just want these people to have happiness because we have terrible lives. And you're just like, oh no, that's like such a good person. And I really, really, really loved this moment. And then I go back again to like, I don't know if I want any of these people to be together because they have such a beautiful relationship among the three of them.
Yeah, agreed. I think another thing that we need to kind of call out, and I think this was a very sad moment, I think, in this part of the book, is that we kind of finally get to the auction, and they auction the crown, which, you know, we talked about it, that Ava bought it with Nick's money, by the way. Just if you guys didn't catch that at the beginning, like,
I love that.
It's like, I'm just gonna use this dude's money, even though I'm trying to kill him, but it's fine. So she gets the crown, and then there is one last thing that they're putting out for auction, and it is the actual rootcraft power that is in this vials thing, and it's just kind of floating, and it's fresh and young, and they only show the big vials that is just floating, and that's it.
But they say they're going to give them the girls.
Exactly. Yeah. But at the end of it, and of course, these vials come with live young girls that are going to continue to provide the power, so it'll never be diminished. And it was just the parallels of slavery and auctioning human
trafficking. Human trafficking, even now, this still happens. God. Yeah.
This was just, it was the saddest thing, and you can kind of tell, like, immediately, like, it kind of puts everything into perspective. The warlocks and everything that were kind of catching the young girls, it wasn't Erebus. It was, we learned that it was just some warlocks because they wanted it for the auction, and it's the order and the regents that ends up buying them, which is really heartbreaking and sad. And I don't know what else to say. Like, it was just, here's the thing about this. The people that are there bidding for this, they feel like they're so superior, but they hide the girls behind somewhere in a curtain to kind of showcase that it's not really like you're buying the humans, you're buying the vials. So it's like this curtain or veil that you're putting behind actually like human trafficking or slavery, but they're not really seeing the full picture as you're auctioning and buying it. They're just kind of under this false pretense that you're getting the vials but not the humans, when in reality you are actually buying humans. And it was just the hypocrisy, and again, the monstrosity of human beings who are auctioning, that are participating in this auction. It was so frustrating and sad, and I could feel Bree's rage when this was happening, because she had an outburst that caught attention onto her, but I understand why.
And everyone's rage. Exactly. Zoe's rage, Mariah's rage. And then I think it's like the last shred of decency that the Order could ever have, because I think it's Aldrich or one of the regents who from the Order who purchases the root crafters, because they realize because of Bree that root might be useful to them. And you're like, fuck this organization. Burn it to the ground. These people are terrible. And the grossest part about it is that it sets us off a shit show, because everyone's really pissed that the regent came into the auction last minute, and that like causes all this violence to erupt.
Yep. And like, yeah, the people that are there, they're not mad that they're auctioning girls.
No.
They're mad that there was like a last minute buyer that won the big thing. Yeah. Yeah. It is everything about how shitty people are, how shitty demons, warlocks, everything just kind of comes together so in this like soup bowl, I guess, of everything that is worse with everybody is coming and happening at this time and place. And it was just so sad. But yeah, like this kind of they start kind of like revolting. We start into like a big fight, and this kind of erupts into like a big brawl at the thing. And we actually get to experience a little bit of Mariah's power, which like she was able to hold up a lot of warlocks, and like I don't know what kind of power it is. I don't know if you caught it, but like she's just able to kind of like create this holding thing on them.
Yeah, it's like a bubble where they can't move. Yeah.
Oh, and I love that, because at the beginning of the book, Mariah was feeling so like, I'm never going to be like Bree. I'm not as powerful, but she's a total badass. She has her own power like nobody else can do. And I just loved her so much.
Especially because she makes some like funny joke to Zoe that's like, I'm a lot more breakable than you all are. So can you like get me up high? And Zoe's like, I got you. It's so like, I love that moment.
It's a beautiful thing. So I really love that. And as Bree and Nick are trying to run behind the Order, try to be able to get the vials, or the girls, they get knocked unconscious. They wake up in a dungeon, and then surprise, Erebus was there all along. Plans within plans comes into back. This is something that he keeps saying over and over again. He's a very smart, astute man, and he very clearly calls it out to Bree and to Zoe. Do you guys really think that I was gonna leave it up to you without me having backup plans for me getting my crown? There's absolutely no way.
Little fucker. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think we finish it out in our next episode. There's
a lot more to cover.
A lot more to cover.
All right. Thank you for listening to Literally Books, the podcast,
where we say what we read
and we mean what we say. Bye.